Time now for Coming In Hot with Brent Wallace, former Ottawa Senator Jason York, and Shawn Simpson.
Good morning, everybody. Brent Wallace alongside Jason York, who's staying warm in Phoenix, and Shawn Simpson. Yorkie, I love that you're bragging about the scenery, but it is warmer, I believe, in Ottawa at the moment.
It's brisk here this morning, fellas. 9 degrees, I believe. That's the thing with the desert. It gets hot during the day, but right now, what are we, 3 hours? 7 a.m. here. It's chilly. Had to stoke a fire here, Wally. Maybe get some s'mores going pretty soon. Have a little campfire for this show.
What time do they bring you breakfast? And they lay it out, I'm sure, in a nice setup, a buffet.
No, we don't. We're not rolling that way. It's a guy's trip. Here. You got 4 guys. It's at the end of 4 days, we're scrounging for food here. I think I found an English muffin and some peanut butter and a little coffee here to keep me warm, boys. But it's it's been a good 4 days.
Maybe some trail mix.
Trail mix. Come on.
Never mind. It's for Travis Hamonic. Never mind. We'll move on.
Oh, okay, I got you. The old hammer. Is the heat still going on? Is hammer? If people settle down a little bit here after a little 8-1 action.
I was gonna say after last night, everything is great. There is nobody where Travis Hamonic ended up playing 16-26 +1 last night. Yeah. 4 shots on goal.
Yeah, everybody in town, Yorkie, is in love with every player. It was one of those nights you're like, okay, you're trying to figure out, and I'm not even watching St. Louis that much. Is Ottawa playing that well, or does St. Louis stink that bad? But it certainly wasn't. And what a wild night for Wally with the Zamboni breaking down, the lights going out, all Wally vision and everything else. And as I said, he's been working since 10 a.m. this morning, yesterday morning. So it's been a long shift for Wally.
I saw that. What happened in the rink anyhow? It was Zamboni issues.
So Zamboni issue was one. It looks like there is a hydraulic leak on the ice, but I was told also they used the fire extinguisher on the Zamboni. They had to roll one down from the Sensplex down the street, so it showed up a bit later. And then the power went out. There was a massive, apparently, lightning strike to something, whether it was a substation or whatever. I don't know. I'm not an electrician, nor do I know anything about the Hydro Ottawa grid. But everything except in the bowl was the rink lights were on, but everything else was dark. All the TVs were off. Everything was in the suites, all that stuff. All the lighting was out. So it wasn't pitch dark, but it was just dead silent. That was the weird thing.
We needed Wally Vision to get, because I would have loved some video footage of the Zamboni driving down Palladium Drive there to the like. Did the Zamboni get a police escort? Because they had to get it over in a hurry, right?
So there's a picture of it on Instagram I saw this morning of the Zamboni pulling into gate 3.
The valet. Pulled in the valet. Here's the keys.
I don't have a pass.
That's just classic Canadiana. What was also strange, guys, just watching what happened, Yorkie. I was, I'm sitting there and I'm texting Wally, hey, are they going to play the game? TSN didn't really have any coverage of it leading up. So you're like, okay, when's this going to start? And then all of a sudden the guys are up for warm up and I'm like, what is going on here? Well, next thing you know, it's like minor hockey. They're picking up all the pucks and they're starting the game without redoing the ice again. It was that was one that obviously did not affect the Ottawa Senators too much. That's for sure.
Well, I will say in TSN's defense, they had no truck, so no broadcast.
That's right. Good
everything
point.
was down, so no one could do anything. There was no internet. There was nothing in the building. So that was one of the things. And the other part was they gave them a 5-minute warm-up at 7:23. It felt like watching my kid play hockey with their 5-minute warm-up and then drop the puck, away we go.
Do you know what? It reminded St. Louis reminded me of kind of the Sens, how they've been the last 3-4 years, really bad goaltending and everything going in. Like it was, was it. So to Simmers, I think it was full marks for Ottawa last night. They played a really strong game, offensively and defensively. But that, St. Louis's goaltending, my God, that was some of those goals that were going in on the ice right through them. It reminded me of Ottawa, the way they were getting goaltending in the past.
Yeah, and this the goaltender was coming in a 3-0 record, and he ended up, I agree, not playing very well. And you also kind of look big picture at St. Louis, guys, And you say to yourself now, there's a pretty good blueprint around the league how to build a hockey team. They're neither coming or going. I mean, look at the division they're in. Look at the pieces that they have. There's not much. Now, I don't know what's in their system, but I would think they'd be discussing whether or not, hey, we got to overhaul this thing and go into a full-on rebuild.
Yeah, something's there too, because coaches don't come out like Berube did and criticize players like that, especially character-wise, and the coach leaves, because the players have the young guys there. You got Kyrou and what's the other fellow's name there?
Robbie Thomas.
Like, the young players have so much power now because you've got long-term contracts and you're there for so long. So the only move you have is move the coach. But obviously, where there's smoke, there's always a little bit of fire, fellas.
Well, it was funny because in the press box, we're like, when you guys, we've all talked about the Sens don't look so much fleet of foot. And someone said, yes, St. Louis actually makes the Sens look fast at the moment. Like, they were just slow and plodding.
Remember we were talking about the other day, like, that's where I think Ottawa's at right now. They got to make sure they beat the teams like the St. Louis's of the world in the league, and that's where you're going to get your points. And things are going to be a little tougher when you're playing the teams like we saw, like a Colorado, like a New Jersey, who's very fleet of foot. And I don't think Ottawa's necessarily slow. I just don't think they're one of the faster teams in the league. But hey, they're not. There's a lot of teams, and we saw it last night. St. Louis. It's just a bad hockey team.
Yeah, and it also felt like on a night, guys, things just clicking. Everything from the fourth line, Cousins was jumping. The new look third line looked really good. And Ridley Gregg looked a little more comfortable playing with Stützle and Tkachuk. So in the measurement, and hey, Friday night, you got a very good Rangers team going in MSG. I think you get a little better indication. But yeah, I think everyone just for one night enjoyed, 8 goals for the second time this season, 8-1 on home ice, no letdown whatsoever. And like I said, completely different vibe from a few weeks or a few nights ago. Sorry.
Well, the old sitcom from about 1978, 8 is Enough Summer. Were you a fan of that show?
I remember it vaguely. I think I was more of a Partridge Family, and is
it Tom Van Dyke? Dick Van Dyke? Dick Van
Dick
Patten.
Van Dyke show.
No, Dick Van Patten was the was the dad.
Absolutely.
Adam Rich.
And who didn't love the Brady Bunch at that time? I mean,
I didn't watch the Brady Bunch.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't a Brady Bunch guy either. But I rewatched all the goals. So I watched the game last night. We had actually had the Canadian feed here last night, so I got to see the TSN broadcast. But rewatching the goals, and you know what really stood out for me, because there was a lot of talk about Timmy Stützle's game, and I listened to Greener's comments after the game when he spoke about Timmy, how he's trying to become a 200-foot player and everybody wants to win. Remember the third goal in the game last night, guys? It was that great rush by Stützle coming down, pulls it in. That whole play happened because of Stützle's back pressure. He back pressured hard to the high slot. And when forwards do that, and this is why coaches always say, if you play good defensively, you're going to get chances offensively. Sure enough, St. Louis tries to go back with the puck. Stützle picks it off. But that whole play starts because Timmy's attention to detail defensively and hustling back on the back check. And that's, I'll guarantee you they show that in their video session. They go, Timmy, look at this. This is how hard you're playing defensively. It's leading to chances. And that's to me, that kind of summarized the game for me. They were good defensively, and those chances defensively turned into good opportunities offensively.
Yeah, you went through a checklist last night, guys, watching it, and I always use that term 5-man units. There was just no doubt that they were coming lower in the zone. The wingers were given some outlets. And then the other thing, and there's just little sequences, and he wasn't tested a ton, but some of those Ullmark saves, again, nothing crazy, but in years past, that would have gone in. If it's 2-0 game or even 3-0, well, he was real sharp. He was real good. And it just gave you that feeling like, okay, I think this thing's, and I always measure it to the start of the second period. When you have a great first period, what's it going to look like when the other team starts to press a little bit? And I thought Ottawa showed an awful lot of composure.
Biggest margin of victory since 2006, if you will. Because I was going to say it's not the most goals because they scored 8 already this season against the LA Kings. But Yorkie and Simmer, you guys have been in the room. You could tell after in the comments they said, like, we didn't want to call it. Brady said we don't want to call it a must win, but we felt the pressure to be better. And Linus Ullmark alluded to it as well. Like, how much of that was a motivating factor for this group to be back on home ice, not to have the letdown after a Western trip, and be better?
Huge guys, because they should have come out of that trip with two out of 3. They didn't. So you left some points on the table, and they knew you had to come back. And the old hangover thing you want to avoid, right? You come back, first game back after a long road trip, you want to make sure you're not flat. And they were anything but flat. So to me, I'll tell you, being in the room, those guys would have got together, morning skate. They would have had a great skate. They would have talked about it and said, make sure we're ready. And it starts with your goaltender. I love the fact he took charge in that press conference after the game when the one he lost. And he's like, hey, I got to be better. And then you heard his comments last night. And I love that saying. And I think he stole it. Was it Travis Green that said it to him? You're not always as bad as you think you are. And you're not always good as you think you are. I think that's just a great slogan to live by in the NHL, because so many guys get caught up in when you're good. And one of my favorite coaches ever, fellas, Perry Pern, he used to say that Perry Pern's one of the smartest guys, one of the best coaches ever had. He's like, just stay even. It's so hard. Like after a win, let's be happy. We didn't win the Stanley Cup, and after a loss, hey, we lost, but let's just be better the next day. And I think if, Ullmark, that's what Ullmark's going to bring to this room, just a nice, calm presence that's going to hold himself accountable, but at the same time, not panic.
Yeah, and that's what Jack Campbell did, guys. It was kind of at first, kind of endearing, where he's like, oh, you know what? I should have been better. I should have stopped it. Then after a while, your teammates just start to get, hey, this emotional roller coaster you're on is just no good. And yeah, he went through the whole lineup. And the part was that, and I said this yesterday on the show, Yorkie, these Monday and Tuesday games, what's the crowd going to be like? You end up losing the lighting for a little while. That could lead to a bit of a flat start, but it was anything but. I mean, the transition, the tone that was set by Giroux, who looks like he's just flying right now on that goal to Norris, and then the transition by Stützle. Hey, maybe St. Louis is bad, but at least for last night, I'm going to go through that Sens lineup and be pretty impressed the way they transitioned. Like I said, it wasn't just one or two guys. Every line seemed to have some chemistry, and the D pairings all seemed to have some chemistry as well.
Jeez. Talk about an opportunist, Gaudette. He doesn't need many opportunities to score, does he? Like you give him a little room on the slot, and you can see like he's in a fourth line role, but man, he is chipping in offensively.
Well, that high glove side is absolutely automatic. Now, the one that was given to him in the slot, there's even some guys that might fumble that, right? You're never expecting that. That was an absolute pure goal scorer's goal. I know it was a terrible giveaway, but he's got that high over the glove shot is just absolutely locked in. I think every one of his goals has been in that same spot.
Tim Stützle, by the way, two things. One, you said when you leave the rink, you don't want to get too high, too low. But that's what, and I can always remember Jacques and everybody just saying, hey, guys, it's just one game. Keep it all even keeled.
It's a process. It's a process.
But that's what bugs. That's what drives Sens fans, or fans, I should say, crazy, because they want you to feel the same euphoria that they feel of a big win the night after, right? Like they just want you to buy into that emotion.
Let me tell you something, and Simmer, you know this. Simmer, you've accused yourself of being this way. Of if an NHL player acted emotionally like a fan did, you couldn't play in the league. You would be so emotionally exhausted. Damn it, we lost. Shit, my career is over. I'm not gonna. And then you went like, all right, we won the Stanley Cup. This is the best thing ever. Like your career would last about 2 weeks, and you would be so exhausted, you wouldn't be able to play in the league.
Yeah, and there are some guys to deal with that. When I talked to Clint Malarchuk last night, some of the quotes coming out of Montreal, I think every Montreal fan just wanted to go. Nick Suzuki said, listen, I'm going to wash this one away. The minute I leave this room, I'm going to forget about the game. And most fans don't want to hear that. No, I want you going home. I want you breaking down tape. I don't want you sleeping. This is ridiculous. I paid big money. This is embarrassing. And you're right. For players, it's just like, listen, this is 82 games here. We're only 9 in. But at least as a team, I think you walk out of there and at least feeling pretty good about yourself heading into MSG for Friday night. It
is tough. I'll tell you, after losses, especially, I remember if I didn't play well, I would carry that until the next game. It's really difficult. And some guys are better at it than others. It depends where you are in your career. If you're a young guy and old guys, but it can train you. But I love what Ullmark's bringing to the table, because the rest of the team's going to feed off that. Because when your goaltender is a leader, it just oozes off on the rest of your team.
It's just the only reason I say that, Yorkie, is because one of the biggest questions I've always ever been asked is, what was the mood around the team today? What was the mood after in the locker room?
Yeah,
and I will tell you, it's always a weird question because it's always the same. There's never you couldn't tell the difference if you walk in a locker room, whether it's
Yeah, I
a
know.
17-game losing streak or a 2-game winning streak.
Well,
It's just the same.
tunes are on after wins, no tunes after
Sure.
losses. So
That's it.
The music's on, they won. If there's no tunes, it's not good.
Yeah,
Anyway.
and at least for Ottawa guys, and I think what's changed in the NHL though is that hey, when you had 21 teams, you could fool yourself even if you're in 21st place to say, hey, we got a chance here. I mean, when you go back to the old Norris division, the only difference, and this has been certainly from an Ottawa case, the Novembers when all of a sudden you come out of it after American Thanksgiving. I'm not saying all of a sudden you have to be down on yourself, but players are also pretty realistic. If we're at 28th in the standings at the end of November, pretty good chance you're not going to make the playoffs. And then I think that just becomes a grind in itself, having to answer the questions, having to pretend that you're going to play meaningful games or be in a playoff race. That is the difficult today's National Hockey League.
One thing you talked about Tim Stützle earlier, couple of notes that he had last night. He is the franchise record for most 3-point games for a player 23 years of age or younger at 23 of them, 3-point games. Yeah. And then that was his 7th 4-point game of his career, which is also a franchise record for players 23 or younger. I would like to point out his 23rd birthday is January 15th, which is a long ways away. So he may have a whole bunch more points to put up for that time. He has, by the way, 8 points in 8 of the 9 games already this season.
Yeah, sure looks great. And also realistically, guys, I don't know the full history of the Ottawa Senators. I believe when Hossa was drafted, he went and played a year of junior, did he not?
Yes,
Spezza ended up playing the American Hockey League. There haven't been a ton of guys that come in of the high-end players. Not many of them. Of course, you had such good teams at the time, Yorkie. But for Stützle and Tkachuk, not that it's not taking away from it, but it just didn't happen as much back in the day where we see more and more of these high draft picks coming right into the NHL at 18 years old.
Yeah, no, it used to be very, very rare. You're seeing it more also, too, because of opportunity, right? Like everybody was wondering when, take the Rangers situation, Lafreniere, why isn't this guy good right away? Because right away he's on a team with, you got DJ Zbad and you got Panarin, who are the go-to guys where they already had established. But when Stützle comes into the Sens organization and Tkachuk, different time. So they were allotted ice time right away and get your confidence. And, you're going to have some growing pains, but Stützle just looks like he's a much more mature player right now. And I say a lot, having Daniel Alfredsson there from day one, talking to him on the ice, being with him at practice. And that's the difference to having a coaching staff that is totally complete on they got every box checked, fellas. You got a defense coach now in Nolan Baumgartner that played in the league. You've got your X and O's guys, and Mike Yeo is one of the best students of the game. And you got Greener, whose job's, the head coach's job. It's rarely X and O's. It's about motivating and trying to find ways to make guys play in a lot of ice time. Then you got Alfie, who's having a guy like him is just so good for a guy like Timmy because you can lean on him, talk to him, and I think it's a big reason why he's playing so well.
Yeah, and I think it's also very rare, guys. I mean, go through the National Hockey League. Marty St. Louis in the Hall of Fame, Daniel Alfredsson. There's not many coaching staffs. When you look at the St. Louis bench last night, you see Bannister, you see Ott, you see some other guys, but you recognize that if you're a young star player, not that Mike Yeo can't give you some good tips or Travis Green, but it sure means a lot when Daniel Alfredsson played in the Hockey Hall of Fame, played in 5 Olympics, went to a Stanley Cup final, is the leader in points for a franchise. I think it makes that much more relatable, and there just aren't many guys. Most guys pack it in, and they've got their money, and they don't want to go into coaching. So, no, I totally agree. It's a rarity, and I think it's a huge, huge piece for these young players.
But what's nice about it, too, because if you're a star player and you're the head coach, it's different because it's not that it's tough, but your assistant coach has more time at practice for the player to come up and have a conversation off the cuff. It's kind of like what's going on in Edmonton with Paul Coffey. Why do you think the defense, because Koff is not the head coach, he's the assistant coach. So it's more conversations on the side, more conversations on the bench, because the head coach has so much responsibility. Where for me, Alfie's in the perfect role right now. He can watch and have those conversations. And I'll tell you, as an ex-player, those conversations you have with your assistant coaches, they're so meaningful and they're so important because they have the time to do it. And they often see a different perspective too of what's going on during a game because you can't catch everything, guys. And I just think it's been huge.
Well, and the old bench guys, when you had one head coach and you had two assistants, I think people would be shocked, Yorkie. Some players could go 30 or 40 games without having a one-on-one conversation. I mean, sure, you're
Crazy.
talking on the bench, but you could almost just disappear, if you're not approaching it. Where I like the manpower now, even for old Sexy to be in there, and you got guys you're communicating, and I think people forget. You mentioned it the other day on the show, the insecurity of hockey players, and for some guys, just having a little chat, little, pep me up, a little pick me up, getting to know somebody as an individual is such a big key. And back in the day, it just wasn't like that. It was like, hey, go play. And the only time we're going to be talking is when we're on the bench.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%.
All right, I got to take care of some business. This show and segment brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. You guys still haven't sung the slogan yet. I will wait for that to happen. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country, including their sister brands as well. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Check out a large selection of Canadian lab-grown diamonds, mined diamonds, and don't pay until 2025 with their instant in-store financing on approved credit. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com. Speaking of charmed, and one more thing. Coming up later in the show, clue number 3 in our 4-clue extravaganza to give away a signed Josh Norris jersey, which tomorrow is the last day for the 4th clue. But we'll get to that later in the show. Please pay attention. And then when you have all 4 clues, email cihsends@gmail.com. cihsends@gmail.com. Back to Claude Giroux, who continues to be on a tear. I want to get into discussing his perhaps contract situation more tomorrow. We have brought it up in the show, but him on the ice, I had a couple of shots from practice I meant to post. He was scoring at will in practice, and I understand it's just practice, but you can see the confidence right now that he has and plays with those two guys, and Drake Batherson and Josh Norris. That goal for Norris with the breakout from Batherson to Giroux to Norris was
nice.
To set up the first goal was just like, they're just I know it seems perhaps over the top, but they just seem to be on a different level right now.
Clean breakouts. The Sens had a lot of real nice clean breakouts last night. When you can go stick to stick and make that kind of pass that Batherson made on the breakout there, it gives you so much time and space in the neutral zone. And Claude's still one of the best of the business. When he gets the puck, not going that quick, but his eyes are always up. And his eyes are up, and it's almost like almost when you're playing basketball and you're looking people off because you're dribbling and you're seeing people. He makes defensemen back off because they're worried that he's going to pass the puck through them. And just nice little backhand sauce. Wasn't the perfect. It was a little fluttery, but man, he is still one of the best in the business, guys, at finding guys and just slowing the game down when he's got the puck on his stick. It's going to be interesting. He keeps this up. Where he's going to be as far as the contract goes, because he ain't slowing down, boy.
No, it's fun to watch, guys. And you have 3 players that have so much hockey sense, and Norris even body position on that play to tip that in. But I'm sure, and I don't know how you were at the end of your career, Yorkie, but for older players, every year there's going to be people saying, well, is this going to be the year? Is it going to slow down a little bit? What are we going to end up doing? Like you talked in the summertime, you're like, well, let's wait and see how he plays. Man, oh man, the determination he has. And he has not, from the day he put on the Ottawa Senators jersey, which is 2 years and 9 games in, there hasn't been any change in his pace, any change in his game. He stayed healthy. You couldn't have asked for a better free agent signing. Now you just have to win some hockey games and discuss whether or not you want to re-sign him.
Yeah. A lot of guys as they get older, they take their foot off the gas pedal because you're established, you're a big name. He still goes out and works on his skating. I remember, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, he was out on the ice working with Shelly Kettles in the middle of the summer, working on edges, and he was on the ice with a bunch of minor hockey players. Like, you don't see that with NHL guys going out there and doing that, but he works. He works and he works, and that's why he's not slowing down, because he puts the work in the offseason.
One of those kids was mine, by the way. He's out also skating with Pat Malloy. So at one end is like, I think Mackenzie Weegar, Claude Giroux, Ben Hutton. There's a few others. At the other end, it's like his daughter, Ella, and then a couple of our kids skating around. Yeah. So Pat does it both ends.
Some guys think they're too cool for school. I'm not going on the ice. Their kids that Claude's getting the reps in, and Patty Malloy is great too for the skills sessions, and working with all the ex-pros. My kids have done work with Patty. If I was a player today, I'd be working with those two people for sure.
And I know also for Drew, guys, the money is great, and I know the talent's all there. But part of what you're just talking about is passion. I mean, there's just certain guys that just want to play till they're like, I say in football, the old Tom Brady effect. He didn't have to play, but he loved it, and you basically had to take the ball away from him. In the case of hockey, for Claude Giroux, that's what it feels like. Listen, now I want to play to a high level, which he's a legitimate top six forward. But guys like that are just so passionate, love being at the rink, understand where they're at in their career, and realize, you know what? I don't know how many more years I'm going to have of this, so I better enjoy it and make the most of it.
I was going to say one more thing about Giroux and those skates is it's where I appreciated how good he is with his hand-to-eye coordination and
So
feet.
good.
It's like he's amazing to watch with the skill set he has. You get to appreciate when it's in practice. Anyway, and I should say that Board had a 6-game point streak. It was 6 games until last night, where it's now 7. His career record, by the way, 14-game point streak, back with the Philadelphia Flyers. Also, we talked about Drake a bit. And Josh, the two of them have played together in the AHL for a while, so they know each other really well. But Claude made the comment last night even that this is the first time that all three of them have been together. I'm just curious, when guys start to come back, is there any chance that line gets shuffled when you've got to put in a David Perron and you got to figure out a Shane Pinto spot? Does Ridley Gregg stay where he's at? What do we do?
No chance that guy. If this line's playing like this, you're not breaking it up. The chemistry's so good right now. You wouldn't mess with that. You probably slot Pinto on that third line, and with Perron, he probably jumps in there as well. And you go back to that great third line that you started off the year with, right? That never really got a chance to get their feet under the ground because of circumstances off the ice with the Pearl family. But that's what I would do. I'd go back to that third line and leave it like that.
Yeah, nice problem to have, guys. And that is where chemistry, and nice to have some healthy competition. Now, I don't want to get too carried away about where the fourth line is at, but they look good last night. God, it's contributing. But no, there is no chance you break that up. And I also thought Ridley Gregg showed some real, a little more feisty last night. And I thought he felt, they were starting to feel a little bit of chemistry with he and Tkachuk and Stützle. So I thought that was a real positive sign. Again, it was an 8-1 hockey game, but I couldn't have on any of those lines or any of those D pairings of the goaltender. There's no critique on any of them. I mean, I just thought, hey, this is one of those nights you realize you got something pretty good going here. Let's see if it can continue in New York on Friday.
That's the nice thing about this lineup, Wally. You've got guys you can slot up and down, that because Ridley Gregg can play with some pace. He's a pretty good skater. He's also got some skill. But Tkachuk and Stützle were taking a little bit of heat, for some of the games on the road trip. But you put a guy like Ridley Gregg in there, he's a guy that plays with speed. He plays hard, and he's going to put pressure on other teams' D. So that's what I like about players like that. You can put them on your third line. You can put them on your fourth line. Hey, let's try them on the first line. And that's the nice thing. The Senators now have something they haven't had in a long time, and that's depth at the forward position, where you can kind of slot guys around, and it's only going to get better once David Perron gets back.
Yeah, and it's not like he's just a checker either, guys. That's the nice part with Ridley Gregg. Like, he's got tremendous upside, and when there's opportunities to make plays, he's more than capable. So you can see for a lot of reasons why that could end up being a pretty good line.
I didn't notice him last night.
What was with that face you just made? You look a little uncomfortable.
Well, I'm like, did we watch the same game? I didn't really notice Ridley Gregg.
Yeah, I just thought there was some.
And maybe because they scored 8 goals, but
he just seemed to be a little more involved. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like most of it's Stützle and Tkachuk, but I did think he opened up the ice a little bit. I love his skating, and I thought he was just a little more energetic getting in on the forecheck.
Yeah. All right. Nice to see my boy Amadio finally get a point too. Oh boy, you could see the relief on his face after he goes over to the scrum. He's like, "Thank you, finally a point." Nice play though, but my God, that shot should have never went in too. The one Gregor scored on the goalie there. Oh, Jesus, he was leaky, that goalie.
That puck had eyes. I mean, it was the weirdest angle, and it was almost like it took like a dive into the far corner when you see it on the replay.
Yeah.
By the way, don't freak out. Zach Ostapchuk and Adam Gaudette have been assigned to the Belleville Senators. They have today off. They skate tomorrow. They play Friday. It's
Paper transaction, Wally.
just a pay, but they do have to report. I did ask that one time. I'm like, can you just keep them in the hotel? And they're like, no, they have to go back. So I don't know if they get halfway down the 401 and turn around, but they do have to.
I'd like to. Is Gary Bettman or Bill Daly calling the hotel?
It wouldn't shock me.
I'm calling BS on that one, especially when you see some of the teams around the National Hockey League where their farm teams are at. Like, remember when, I don't know if they're still there, Vancouver's farm team was in Utica. Yeah, we're gonna do a paper transaction. You get down to Utica, and then we're going to call you back. I'd just be interested behind the scenes, Wally.
You were in management.
Well, but we had no salary cap. There was no such thing like this, right? Back in the day, when I worked for the Leafs and I worked for Washington, you weren't papering people down back and forth. So it was just a different time. Yeah. So I would be curious behind the scenes.
You know how they do it? You know how they do it? They have to go down and they have to physically drive down, and then they got to get to the dressing room. They got to get on the scale and weigh in and record their weight, and then they take a picture of it and they send it to the league. The old weigh-in chart. Remember the weigh-in chart? After every, I don't know if they still do it. You got the scale in the dressing room. You got to get on the scale, write your weight down, and go get dressed. That's how each day used to start in the NHL and the minors. You had to weigh in, and after practice, you got to weigh out. It's like you're like a big side of beef. You're just getting like a prized cattle weighing in before practice and weighing out. I don't know if they still are they still doing that down there, Wally?
I believe they still weigh in. I just don't know if they have to, as they punch their card on the way out, if they have to weigh out.
Yeah, and back in the day when the players had way more fun, there were the art hockey players that put on weight during the season, which never happens anymore. And you knew when that call came for a little weigh-in, where the players like, that's not a very good situation. Mike Keenan's famous for doing that, calling people out.
Oh my God.
By the way, I do like Graham. Graham does stuff in the chat. Just said they wait for the megabus that they never get on.
The megabus.
Players had to. It's pretty good. All right, this segment is brought to you by Square. If you run a restaurant, you're just too busy for this ad. You're thinking about getting more orders flowing and new locations opening. You need to get more customers and keep them coming back. So really, you're thinking about Square, because Square Restaurant Tech helps more than 400,000 restaurants do all those things and more. When you're thinking about your restaurant, think bigger and think Square. Go to square.com for all the information. You know what? Let's get right to it. Everybody's waiting. I get every show, there's at least one comment to change the opening, but we will not be deterred.
Never.
We will not change the opening.
Oh.
Eric, Jake, sorry.
Let's go. Survey time.
Hear ye, hear ye.
Yeah, I think the problem with the listeners, guys, they don't realize when something's so bad, it's good. And that's really what this falls under. So there is not a chance. It's called building character in a show. And so I put this one and I thought, hey, coming into the month here, great play for Ullmark yesterday. You got 14 games in the month of November, basically every second day, 7 at home, 7 on the road. So of the 14, how many do you think Ullmark will end up starting? What do you say, Yorkie?
Can we see the schedule? Can we have the schedule in front of us so I can see how many back-to-backs there are?
There's only one back-to-back. It's this weekend.
Oh, there's only one back-to-back coming out. So he could go pretty heavy in this thing. But again, I'm feeling a lot better with Forsberg now, though, fellas, because he's played pretty good the last couple games. So we go back to the board there, Jake, and see what my options are.
Yorkie's now just running the show, Jake.
Yeah.
So
1 is 11 or more, 2 is 10, 3 is 9, and then number 4, 8 or less.
14, eh? Oh boy, I'm looking at 9 or 8 or less. So I will go with who knows, with injuries too. So I'm going to go with 8 or less. I'm going to go with 8 or less. I am.
Wow.
Yeah,
what do you say, Wally?
Jake, can I see the schedule again?
There's 2.
There's the road trip. You're gonna have to play him in there. So I voted 9 in the YouTube chat. So I'm gonna stick with 9. But it's the one thing with Forsberg, the way he's played in the last couple of games, is you don't hesitate to go to him if you need to or want to. So I'm gonna say 9 though. I want to see Ullmark get on a roll here.
Yeah, I think as far as Ullmark guys, and there'll be the fine line, not wanting to, hey, we're going to play all 14 games or 13 to 14. But I can confidently say, based on that schedule, with him wanting to find a groove, again, fine line between not playing too much, but he hasn't played a lot of hockey, didn't have much of a preseason. So I'll actually go with number 2. I think it'll be 10-4, and there's no hesitation to put Forsberg in. And I think this is also predicated on Ullmark continuing to play well. But when you look at the layout of that schedule, how important November is to the psyche of this franchise, to fans, to the magical American Thanksgiving. Yeah, I'd roll him out. I'd roll him out 10 out of 14 there. So I'll go with number 2.
Well, the chat poll has 54% choosing 10 games.
Yeah. I think in a perfect world, he gets probably 10. I'm just trying to think of what could happen. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe Forsberg plays a game and he plays pretty well. And who knows with how Ullmark, I think Ullmark's going to get in a groove here. I really believe that, Simmer. It looks like he, based on what I saw last night, I could, and perfect timing, right? Too. Now we've got a ton of games here, chance for you to get going, and perfect time for the Sens to get a little heater here.
Yeah, and games like last night could be a little tough for a goaltender. Certainly the part that he showed, and he showed when he's in Boston, he's a smooth operator. I mean, there's no nerves. And in games like that, it's easy when your team is up by that much, or you're not seeing a lot of action. And he had a couple of great saves there. Love his glove hand. So refreshing to see an Ottawa Center goaltender that can actually catch the puck. But that's the part that I really enjoy. And now we'll see some games maybe where they get outplayed. How does he end up handling that? But it is a nice thing to have when you have a night like last night, and he was just locked in, and just a little small thing, but nice little bounce back for him.
He actually, Wally, one more thing on that last night's game.
Yeah.
There's actually a couple saves he made when that game was at 3-0, where if St. Louis scores there, it's 3-1, and all of a sudden he made those saves, and there weren't a lot, but there's a couple key ones just to make sure that St. Louis knew they didn't have a chance of getting back in that game. It's like, oh shit, we got a chance. Not Ullmark with a big save there. So not the busiest of nights, but a couple important saves.
Well, and suddenly the stats don't look too bad, but I always use the mark, and I'll go back to the victory in Utah, guys. Same thing. Ottawa comes out, has a great first period. You know there's going to be a pushback. How does the team react as far as composure and for the goaltenders? And that's what Forsberg did in Utah. They had some grade A chances to start that second period, but he locked it down. And Ullmark last night, not a ton of them, but didn't give St. Louis any opening, any opportunity to climb back in that hockey game.
I will say, though, guys, I am disappointed that Linus Ullmark didn't fight Jordan Binnington.
Are you?
I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I was like, I was hoping Brady would actually grab him, and there would be the Ray Emery, Andrew Peters scenario again. But I was like, if Jordan Binnington's going to get involved, I just want someone that's going to grab him and go, okay, enough. But
yeah, he's pretty irritating, I got to say. For the stuff that he gets involved in, and he's got such a hot head. I don't know what he was thinking trying to get in between Brady Tkachuk and the St. Louis player. And hey, who doesn't love a good old goalie fight? But he is he's a hothead. And every time I watch one of these Canadian goaltenders, I'm looking at the Four Nations tournament and the forwards and the defense, and I'm saying to myself, who in God's name is going to be the goaltender? I don't know if we have one at this point, to be quite honest with you.
Who I saw a list the other day. I'm like, whoa, that's what we're going with here for the Four Nations. But there's the depth for that position for Canadian goaltenders has never been worse.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead, Simmer.
There's no doubt that Skinner's on the list. They've had Aiden Hill on the list. When you go through it, though, guys, and what other teams, now you only have one goaltender, but you think of Markstrom, you think about how the Gus Bus is playing right now. Finland, what they'll have, there is no doubt that the one thing Canada will not have is the best goaltending, probably be ranked 4th. I mean, the Americans have, they run 3 or 4 deep on starting goaltenders in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
I saw somewhere someone mentioned Cam Talbot. I'm like, oh no. Like,
nice
I get it, but if we get to that point.
You guys got to see this cactus shot right now with the sun on the back with the sun on the back here. Oh, it's just
wow!
Look at that, eh? That should be a postcard right there, Wally.
This commercial break brought to you by Phoenix.
Cactus shot.
Oh, by the way, Yorkie, I know since you're part owner of the organization, you saw the latest Sportico valuations come out. Where do you think, out of the 32 National Hockey League teams, your Ottawa Senators are valued at?
Out of the 32, okay. I'll go with I don't know, go 16.
I'm
I
going to
don't know
go
who's got.
with I'll go with 29. I mean, there's no way when you look at even the expansion teams that have come in. The amazing one is the Montreal Canadiens, guys. I think they're what 2.3 billion, and they sold for 250 million back in the day. But I'm going to go much lower, Wally. I'm going to say 28th.
They are 29th at 1.14 billion. Then it's Buffalo, Winnipeg, and Columbus round out the bottom three. By the way, Montreal valued at $2.93 billion.
Oh, 93. Okay.
The
Yeah.
Leafs at 3.66, and then it's the Rangers at 3.25. Then the Canadians are top three.
Horrendous guess. I think once everything gets put down at the LeBreton Flats with the rink and the whole new setup, the value will go up because that's going to be an incredible setup when it finally does go down there.
Yeah. Well, it looks like you bought a lemon, Yorkie.
Paid off though. There's not a lot of debt, Wally. Not a lot of debt.
But I don't even know how you put a value on the Toronto Maple Leafs guys. I mean, when I was there, our payroll went from 72 million down to 39. I remember them telling me that they generated, I think, 50 million in sweet money alone. Like, it's just a license to print money. And then that's obviously the difference of when you look at that bottom four, what is your revenue versus cost? And I don't disagree, Yorkie, that it won't go up a little bit, but there's always going to be a margin based on the Canadian dollar, based on the market. Even with a new building, you're just not going to have, you're going to hope in a good year, I would assume, and I've never seen the books, that you could break even. That's the only part I look at that's different than the big boys.
You got to get the big concerts coming into town, fellas. The hockey's always going to be tough to make a lot of money. And part of the reason having the rink down there, it's people think it's just about the rink. It's about getting great venues to come to the city of Ottawa, and that's why if you put it in that location, you're going to draw more from the Gatineau region. You're going to get people come from another city, like the Orleans area, that can get there easier and conjugate downtown. And you got to remember, what is it, 41, 42 home dates? The rest of the year, you're going to you want other things coming in there, and they want to make Ottawa. So let's say it's a Taylor Swift or whoever, and they do their Montreal, they do their Toronto. You want to start having Ottawa be a major player when the big acts come to town and come to a world class, and that's a venue, and that's what they're trying to do.
Yeah, and to that, you also talk about the costs of that. It'll be interesting to see whether the market can sustain it. And then the other part that's so different, I remember being out in Edmonton years ago talking to the people about how great the ice is, and I'm like, is the reason the ice is so good because they don't have many events here? They said it's actually the second busiest building in North America next to Madison Square Garden. Yeah, and then you also go to, when you're in DC, now owning the building is different than owning the franchise. But let's face facts here. When I've got an NBA team and an NHL team, and say the Boston Bruins, who control the building, having that tenant in there, you're up to 82 nights that people around there are going to be coming in, helping out local businesses, spending their money. And then you mix in whatever amount of concerts, and then you have different things that you're doing, college hockey. You got to be very, very creative on that. So it'll be fun to see where Ottawa ends up when they have the new building.
Yep.
Speaking of events and venues, Alfie did get video sent to him of the chants from the Arkell show and was actually quite, we'll say tickled, if you will. He was,
oh, nice.
Yeah, he was pretty happy to see that. I thought it was pretty cool because his kids had seen it as well. So he's like, hey, they're chanting my name. That's pretty good. So
yeah, I'd never watched them in concert. I just watched some of the clips, Wally, and oh my God, what a show he puts on. Yeah. Max is just off the charts good.
Yeah.
Talk about bringing the energy. Man, oh man, he is good.
Max owes us a show jingle, by the way. He remember he put back the piano and he goes, I'm going to make something up for you guys. So I know we came up for that nice idea because he needed something to happen. And the 11-11 Alfie chant was great. So now, Max, we need you to come up with a little show jingle for us.
Interesting. Oh, but last thing on that, I didn't mean to get off topic, is the school choir. I guess it's called, I don't want to call it a school choir, but the school that they brought into the show, and Max had mentioned them in the show, I met at the rink that day. They had just done rehearsals and they had said, hey, we were just on your show. I was like, well, that's pretty cool. We watched it in class. So if I don't expect them to still be watching, but if you are, great job you guys did at the show as well. Okay, let's move on. Yorkie, it's your time to shine in the show.
Well, as always, big thanks to our friends at BEI, Bonisher Excavating. If you're looking to get some equipment rented out to help out with your projects in your house, give them a call. Aggregate topsoil sales as well. They can help you with that, as well as some hot mix paving. They can pave up that driveway for you. So when you're planning your next project, consider BEI for all your aggregate supply needs. You can get them at 613-432-1120 or on the web at bonishirexcavating.com. BEI is helping to shape the Ottawa Valley. And as always, please slow down in construction zones.
And of course, by Bet365, our proud presenting sponsor of Coming In Hot. Open an account today with Bet365 and bet on a huge range of markets. So whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Use code NATION, NATION. Must be 19 years of age or older. Please play responsibly. Don't forget to download the app and listen to me for all of your picks.
Absolutely. After last night, pulling out Gregor, I had, who did I end up going? I went with Amadio to end up scoring, and it was a 500-1, but at least he got an assist. So pretty good call by Wally last night. And we all took the sends. So we all made some cash for people.
So today, I have a couple of see which you're picking games. Tampa is in, sorry, I've lost it here. Tampa is in Colorado. Who are you picking to win that game? Colorado on a 5-game heater. Tampa 6-3 to start the season.
I would go with Colorado in this one based on what I seen in the Sens game. Nathan McKinnon just seems to be at a different level right now, and man, he 1A, 1B best players in the world right now. And Cale Makar, what can you say about him? Just man, I love watching him skate. Just such a fun player. So as long as their goaltending holds up, I'll take the Avs at home.
Yeah, and I think at Tampa off to a pretty good start, Wally. But same thing. I'd say if I'm using money here and doing the old Bet365 CA, I would never bet against Colorado at home. That would probably be my one theory. You know what I mean? I just think the advantage that they have with the the elevation, I think that's almost into guys' heads nowadays, and they do play with tempo. I expect it to be a competitive game, but I would end up taking Colorado as well.
Okay, so I'll take the Lightning. That makes it easy. The Devils, 6-4-2, are in Vancouver, who are 4-1-3 on the season. That's a good matchup.
It's a great matchup. That's a great matchup. I love New Jersey. I was really impressed watching them when they played in Ottawa. But Vancouver, they seem like a pretty complete hockey team. When in doubt, go with the home team. So I'll take Vancouver. Hopefully, New Jersey, and they're not going anywhere near the Rocks, so you don't have to worry about that. So, I'll go with Vancouver at home.
Yeah, I was just going to comment on that. It used to be back in the day, you'd take the home team because the road team would be having so much fun there. Well, that doesn't happen with the modern day athlete. And also just still a little bit worried about Vancouver's goaltending. I don't believe Demko is back. So I will take New Jersey on the road for this one as well.
The Vancouver Canucks are 4-0-1 in their last 5 games. Let's take the New Jersey Devils. They got something to prove. Let's see if they can do it. So I'll take the 2.
Funny, it's interesting you said that about Vancouver, Simmer. Every year we would try and do our rookie dinner in Vancouver if possible, because you'd always get a layover there if you're playing in Ottawa, even when we're out west. But they just, man, it was just such a good city to go to back in the day. Stay at the old Pan Pacific Hotel there, right on the water. Just be great sushi there too. But that road trip was always my favorite.
Yeah, just leave the curtains open in the hotel room. I just love that, waking up in the morning, the planes coming in on the water. And then the other thing that Vancouver has always had, guys, and I was in there with George McPhee early on when he had come to Washington, knew the people. Their game ops are unbelievable. They have a great sound system there. There always seems to be pretty good energy in that building. I just thought it was always a terrific place to go and watch a game.
Almost forgot the Josh Norris clue. Which team did he score his hat trick against? Which team did Josh Norris score his hat trick against?
What year was the hat trick? Do we know the year?
Listen, Yorkie, you have to email the show with your answers.
Boy.
No, we're not discussing it.
Okay. I thought you were asking me.
I wouldn't even know where to go. I ruined one of the clues yesterday, Yorkie, by talking about what college he went to, because I was referencing his father went to Michigan State and he went to Michigan, but I wouldn't even know where to find these clues. Like, I know there is such a thing as the internet and Google, but man, oh man, Wally's not making it easy.
Well, there was one, like, what was the name of his first dog? I thought I don't even know if you can find that out. So I won't go with
Speaking of
that
dog,
one.
what is Ullmark's dog? Is that a corgi he's got, Wally? I know you're a
I
dog guy.
believe corgi is the answer. Yes.
He's got a corgi, yeah. My neighbor's got a corgi. Those are good dogs, smart dogs.
Okay. Okay. I'll keep that in mind. Are you coming home today, Yorkie? Is this your last day?
What time is it? We've got a 12 o'clock bird leaving, so we're leaving the house here in about an hour, and then
Okay.
I will be back in town tonight.
Do you
And ready for a big show tomorrow.
do you have your costume ready for tomorrow?
I'm working on it. We're still got to decide we're going to hand out for at the York House for candy. I'm not sure what we have because we have a few stairs at our house. So I think if you're going to come up our stairs, you need to be rewarded with maybe a jumbo-sized chocolate bar.
Oh, you're that guy. We always stop at that house.
Yeah,
But do you have many young kids in the neighborhood, Yorkie, or is it mostly teenagers?
Tons. So many young kids in
Okay,
the neighborhood. A lot of young kids. We're a busy house. We'll get a couple hundred kids for sure.
Nice.
We have people drop their kids off in our neighborhood, drive over and drop the kids
Yeah,
off.
oh, that's annoying. You got to stay in your own neighborhood.
Well, maybe they live in a country like at one house is every 200 feet. So.
No, they're coming to your neighborhood because they know they're going to get lots of candy. That used to happen when I was in Canada Lakes. They would come to my street because it was just one circle, and there'd be kids you didn't recognize, and you're not from my neighborhood.
Will you be standing at the stairs handing out flyers to for the sale of your house? Like, here's some candy, but you also have to take this flyer.
No, I will be at the front door with my dog Charlie, who will have her lion costume on. She has the lion mane, so I dress her up like a lion. So we'll be there greeting the children at the front door. And Charlie doesn't like the lion mane, but she'll wear it.
Yeah, and also we're supposed to have pretty nice weather, guys. I mean, I always think about Halloween. You could have anything as a kid from snow to lower temperatures, but based on today and tomorrow, should be some beautiful weather. So I'm sure lots of kids and I think parents measure it there, or kids probably use satellite Google now, and they probably look at square foot. Hey, how many homes can I hit within 1 square kilometer? Right now, too much spacing in that one. Also, looking at necessarily expendable income. What's realistically going to be my take in some of the nicer neighborhoods that like Wally lives in?
Here's a question for our panel and our viewers. If somebody comes to your door and they don't have a costume on, do you still give them chocolate or whatever you got, Smarties or whatever you're handing out?
Yeah, I'm going to go with no. And because chances are it's a teenager. And if he's not willing to put the effort in, first of all, I don't know what market should be, 13, 14, or what age you make a decision start. Yeah, I don't know. But if you can't put a costume on and you're a teenager, now I'll also be careful because he may be the one that comes around and smashes my pumpkin after. So you also have to keep in mind that, okay, maybe I should just give him something so he doesn't circle back and egg my house later. Right?
Gosh, Wally, where do you sit on this?
So, well, I guess the first question, do you think I go to the door or not?
You?
Do you think, between Lisa and I, who goes to the trick-or-treating door?
Okay, Lisa's going to the door. You're not. You're like,
but I will get anybody that shows up at the door, they get candy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why not? I mean, it's all last year's candy, but yeah, why not?
Question number two. If somebody gives you an apple, does that count as like Halloween candy? Like, I don't know. If I was a kid, I was taught, because my mom used to scare the shit out of me. She's like, if somebody gives you an apple, Jason, it's got razor blades in it. Don't eat it. Yeah. Remember the old thing that happened back in the day? So if you got an apple, like, be prepared. That could be thrown right back at your house.
Yeah, you got to draw a line, guys. Anything that's homemade, don't bother with, And the other thing is, some of the apples can be a bit bruised, but back in the day, you'd get like a muffin or something stupid, and you'd be like messing up with my candy. Nowadays, everyone just goes to the supermarket, buys a couple of those 50 packs and hands them out. So I just don't see this happening. I think you'd really have to be in an old school neighborhood to end up with an apple at this point.
Yeah.
So if I can where can I buy those individual salt packets? I will put one in every time I give out a chocolate bar. You can have.
Oh, nice.
And by the way, like
Hey?
Yorkie to dress up as a Wally salt shaker for Halloween.
You know what? I'll wear my that's my Christmas sweater. I have a Christmas sweater, Simmer, with the salty Wally character on it. Laurel made it for me. That'll come out in a couple months.
Oh, nice. I'd like you to see I have one of those big chef hats going too, and then just doing the drop of the salt. Hey, just a little sprinkle in every bag. Hey, just for
you
good
better
luck.
be the town crier. Like you have to. I don't know how. Just you've got
that's
to answer
true.
the door
Yeah,
going, "Hear
that's
ye,
true.
hear ye."
Hear ye.
Probably scare the kids. They'd be like, "Who is this loser?"
Kurt Graham in the chat just said he got a Bible one time.
What?
Wow, might have been it's probably a Donald Trump Bible. He was probably selling them.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
There's the other question for you, Wally. What do you do when somebody comes to your door on a day and you know it's the people that are trying to sell you something that are religious? Do you answer the door or do you pretend you're not home?
So we have a doorbell camera, but normally I don't answer the door because no one's coming to talk to me. So if anybody wants to answer the door in the house, they're free to go do it. It just probably isn't coming from me.
Yeah.
So, and then I love it when my daughter's too polite and she'll answer the door and then she'll wait for the whole speech to be done. And then she's like, sorry, my parents aren't home right now or something. And I'm like, just tell them already that you're not interested. So yeah. Don't come to my door. Don't come to my door at 8 o'clock at night.
No. And in the United States right now, I would assume just about every household that's eligible to vote has gotten somebody knocking on the door. Can you imagine? As they're just scurrying there. They even have a log now. I don't know if it's the Democrats or the Republicans. Know if your house is already voted, necessarily who you're going to vote for, and then they just basically scan all the other ones, making sure that they activate the people for the election next Tuesday.
Well, all right, gentlemen. I believe that's it. But we got a show tomorrow. I'm working on a guest. He has said yes, tentatively. So I will hold off before we announce who it is.
Any clues? Any clues?
NHL Insider.
NHL Insider. So we are.
No, you're the smartest man in hockey. It's different. It's a whole different thing.
Yeah, no. If we land this, it'll be fun. It'll be fun to, as you said, really kind of get through and discuss Drew and his future with the Ottawa Senators.
Yes, so that's why we're bringing him on to talk perhaps contracts and what's going to happen with Claude Giroux. I tried for it today, but he's too busy, so we're doing it tomorrow. If he can, you never know.
And we are going 4 p.m. tomorrow, Wally.
We are 4 p.m. tomorrow. We got a couple of surprises. At least Eric, I hope he stayed up all night getting it done, but we do have some surprises into the show. So thank you once again to Eric, who cuts all our goal highlights and does a ton of stuff for us on social media. He's been fantastic. And of course, our producer, Jake, who always runs a tight ship here.
Tight ship. Wally Jr. He's Wally Jr.
You're in Winchester on the weekend. For people that want to get tickets to go see you, Shawn Donovan, Wendell Clark, Chris Neal, Matt Barnaby, do you know where they go to get tickets for that, Yorkie?
We're playing in Winchester, right in downtown Winchester at the old arena there. So I believe you can just show up and get tickets right when you get there. But no, it'll be great. Yeah, it'll be a Saturday night. Game starts at 7 o'clock, and then there's a little shindig after up in the club at the Winchester Arena. So a lot of fun. I played in it last year. Doug Gilmore was there last year, and Dougie's a great guy. Todd Gill will be there as well. Who so I love the guys that played in that era because they got such great stories, and they're such great guys.
We should get some of them on. By the way, Jesse Winchester, I think also Jesse Winchester playing in Winchester, if I'm not mistaken.
Winchy can still skate too. He's still young, so he can fly around on the ice pretty good.
So how many shifts do you play? Are you just there for comic relief, or do you get involved?
I get involved now. Like when I first started playing, because I didn't play for like 10 years because my knees were terrible, but started playing a little bit more now. So I'm up in the play now, Wally. I'm leading the attack.
Wow.
Nice.
No back checking anymore?
Oh, there's no back checking, but I can actually move half decent now compared to I was like the Tin Man when I first started, but now it's pretty good.
And you also, to a game like that, if I heard the name right, you have to be aware of who's on the ice and the chance of O'Donnell running India. So that's something to watch out for. I used to love when he'd step on the ice for warm-up or for the start of the game and just flying all over the place and always bringing some good energy.
Donald can still fly, man. He can still skate. He's always been fast, but he's got that motor, and it's not slowing down.
Perfect. Well, we look forward to seeing that. So if you guys want to get out and see some of the legendary Ottawa Senators and a couple of washed up Maple Leafs that you may never heard of, like Wendell Clark, you can go to the Winchester Arena Saturday night. All right. See you tomorrow, boys. Safe travels home, Yorkie. Thanks for doing
safe travels, Yorkie. Cheers, Ottawa.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to Coming In Hot. If you enjoyed the show, hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to never miss an episode.